Welcome back, and if any of you watched the unboxing, I'm sure you already knew this was coming, and I had a good idea as well. I've been using spare pieces to measure stuff, try some ideas. I got all my components laying out, and I've got the whole table in a mess, but I started just last night, went ahead and made the base so that it could fully dry. It is snug without being too tight. And I measured the space and it should be fine to work with the board when it's laid inside. Now comes the harder part, because if this box were to go on a shelf, it is a tall, skinny box, not square, then you would probably want the weight, the heavy stuff, down here at the bottom. But I don't know. This is something where I had just quickly made with spare bits when I was doing another insert to measure stuff and try stuff. And I was looking at possibly doing this. And these just slide. They're not made, not permanent. But if I did that, then this would be off to the side and everything be lopsided. So I think I've come up with something different, and I've been trying a few different things, just measuring stuff out. So let's look at one thing I'm thinking about doing, or I have done. So I've got the apples in here for now, and you may be asking, well, why is that so large? It doesn't need to be that large. I'll show you what I'm thinking later, but for one thing, it'll stack well with this one. And the reason I made it so large is for what it will hold. Now, I will warn you, if you end up following my design and making your own, be careful. Those needles are long enough, they will poke out the top. Can you see that? Yeah, just barely. They will poke out the top. So do not hurt yourself, poke yourself. If you follow the measurements that I use, that I will be putting up on the screen, the needles will poke out the top. But now I can place that there, this here, and the rocks will go here, because really the only place you get the rocks is at that one location where you use the dowel, and now the dowel can fit in on top of that, and it'll help keep those from falling out as easily. And by stacking that on top of this, it will help keep the apples in. That's what I'm hoping anyway. And that, if I measured correctly, is the same size as the insert or close enough. Now the other cards I'll probably just leave somewhat loose, and these will probably go here or here. Still haven't figured all that out, but just for measuring purposes, if I place these, say here, I made this box with open corners, and I may even cut a little more off. But for now, that works well for this deck, the Comforts. It is roughly an inch tall on the walls. And by doing that, the cards won't slide around. It will fit level, even on top of these cards, it'll fit level there. And then all you gotta do is pull it out and pull the card out. And then of course you can grab them all and shuffle them and put them back in. It's a little, I got it just a little snugger than, more snug than I would have liked, but it's not bad. And they all fit in there just fine. I made two identical two-pocket resource compartments, and they will stack on each other nicely. And once again, be careful. using the pins, they will poke through and through the top and get you. But this should fit right there. Nice and level there. A little uneven, but not enough to matter. That's gonna be good right there. I cut these two little legs, arms, whatever. Took everything out except for one player board. I'm going to use that just to put this in. Not super snug, but pretty snug. It'll leave a gap to pull everything up that we need to get out easily, but it will also give some reinforcement down here on this side of the insert when the board is laid on top of it. Got some pins in the sides. I'll carefully get that out, make sure if there was any glue on it, just rub it off. And then just to double check, I can say that it is roughly from this end 4 5/16. Yeah, so let's just do that. Roughly 4 5/16. There we go. Finished up my player storage, and if you can see, my cuts are not perfectly clean. They are not even. A couple of these won't fit on the bottom row to get 3 side by side, so we'll just put these on top. I also put 2 of these into each of the player component storages just for ease of use. The other 2 I've put here. For now, I'll just set these extra tokens and the wheelbarrows and such right here on top of the wheel. There's the first player early worm, or early bird gets the worm, and then there is the community dice. Most everything is done. Now I'm finishing up with this. Gonna let this dry really well. Be careful. Maybe it'll show up, but there are pins sticking out of it everywhere. Yeah. It will get you. This one I decided to do just a little bit differently. We'll let that dry really well. Come back to it. So I finished my last resource cup, and I almost wish I had made one side slightly bigger. I made them rather even. These are not goods that you normally get. The coins are worth 1 at the end of the game, and these are story tokens that you've accumulated. And they're worth 2. And both of these are also placed on top of some of your comfort cards to earn more points. So these are really what you're aiming for. And there's a lot more of the stories, and they're bigger. So I almost wish I had either made this a little lopsided or just left this out and let them mix up, since these are not your common goods, but these are what you aim for. But it works. It's just a little messy, but that will fit there. That will go there. So I thought about spreading these lesson learned tokens around into different resource bins so that they could easily be grabbed. But then I just decided, I got this little space here. I won't fill it up completely, and I did some really bad rough cuts on this, but These should fit in there where you can easily get them out, and that'll just keep things from sliding around too much. And we're pretty much done, except for I decided to do one more little project. Using my spray adhesive, had me some chipboard, or actually it's more like cardstock, and I drew me some shelves with different knickknacks on them and such. And for instance, this is for the yellow player, the bunnies. And you can use this for resources rather than those little 3 and 5 things. And if you don't want to keep reaching across the table, or if you don't want to keep asking people for resources, you can just use this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I made one for each player. Just real simple. One for each player in the different player colors. And those will fit. If I just lift these up. That does raise this up a tiny bit, but I don't think it's enough that it's going to matter. Everything should fit except for these, which that does bother me, but everything fits fine. So guys, we went from this to this. I think that just looks much nicer, works much better. Nice, clean, but how good is it at setting up? Let's take a look at that real quick. As you see, the insert's not perfect, the setup is not perfect, but it's pretty quick, it's pretty good, and you can pretty much have the board ready to just flip cards over as you start explaining, as people start getting their supplies ready near their board, like so. These are kind of instructed in the rule book to be kept separate so that people can understand these are not your standard resources. When it comes to these symbols, for trading, and on some of the cards when it talks about the resources you have, it's talking about these 6 resources. So these are kind of separate, but other than that, it's pretty quick, pretty easy setup. Now with my insert, I'm very happy with it. We could just flip these cards over, flip this stack over, and flip this stack over. Oops. And we're ready to go. And by doing this, you can also kind of explain to people, you can find apples at both places, but usually if you want the wheat and the yarn, it is here in the meadow. If you want the wood and the mushrooms, it is here in the forest, and rocks are here. So everything is somewhat located where it would be found. There you go. I'm really happy. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it's great. For me, it works really well. And I've got these extra tokens here. Don't really know what to do with them. You can just set that deck of cards there. I mean, quick, easy. And as I say, you can start explaining the game as you set up. And I'm ready to play this myself. I'm ready to go. It's all set up and ready. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helps you. It'll at least give you some ideas of things that you liked or things that you didn't like and that you would change, and get you, I don't know, interested and motivated to do this yourself. It's a great game, and you add in a great insert, it just makes it that much better to get to the table and tear down so that you can spend more time enjoying it and gaming. Thanks for watching.